All right, everyone. Good evening. It's Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. We're going to be doing a talk, again, always starting with our systems approach, but we're going to take a systems approach to understand a very interesting nutrient called MSM. Some of you may have heard about it, MSM. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to wait for people to join. Let's wait for people to come in. Let's see what's happening. Okay. Good evening. We're going to be doing a talk later this evening at 9 today on how we get to clean elections, but this is actually a systems science talk. It's based on our research work on systems biology. I promise at least a couple of times a week, maybe 3 to 4 times, we're going to take some nutrient, and some of you have written in that you were very interested in MSM related to joint health. Joint health as people age, if you're athletes, if you do yoga, if you do exercise, you have to be very, if you overuse your joints, some people have more proclivities to getting joint issues and others don't. Good evening, Matt Fury. So I'm going to show you some of the latest research we just finished between Cytosolve, and I'll talk about what Cytosolve is, one of the technology platforms I created out of my PhD work at MIT, and the work I've been doing with the University Health Network. We just finished a very big research project, and that research project really brings out what are the things that affect joint health. And then we started looking at different nutrients that affect joint health. So some of you have written in about, what does glucosamine do? What does MSM do? What does different kinds of particular ingredients do? So as a public service, we're running those ingredients through Cytosolve relative to joint health. And we can do it for anything. So if any one of you guys want us to run Cytosolve for different things, please email us, or you can go literally to vashiva.com/vashiva.com. And on that website, which I'll just share with you right here, I'll come back to it, you can literally share your ideas. So if you go right here to vashiva.com, let me share right there. I think everyone should be able to see this. Yep. If you go right here, up on the right, it says contact. And under contact, there's a thing called customer service. We're putting in the customer service area. And you could click right here if you have any ideas, account access issues we'll talk about, but ideas for Dr. Shiva videos. Just fill this in. It comes to our team, and then we review it, and then we put it on the agenda. Okay? So please take advantage of that to give us any ideas. But today we're going to be talking about joint health, as I mentioned, and we'll wait for people to join. Got about 330 people here. Okay, got about 80, 90 people there. So we have about 500 people. We're back, and want to welcome everyone. So let's begin. The way I do this is typically I will first of all give you a background on the platform that we're building, because it is through your support and everything we're making this platform possible, where we do scientific research, we do activism, and then we support a way for you guys to actually commune together, and that's on the VA Shiva platform. So I'll come back to that. So let me just go right to the tool that we have here. Okay. In fact, I'm just going to share all the screen so everyone can see everything. Share. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's begin with our let's go right here. There we go. I think everyone here should be able to see this. Yep. All right, there you go. Let's see here. Good. Okay, so let's start here on our talk today on MSM. So the title of the talk is Methyl Sulfonylmethane, MSM and joint health. People use this ingredient. You may find it in joint health product for your pets. You may find it as a ingredient that you may want to use for joint health. So we ran this through Cytosolve. So we're going to give a quick background, but before I go into that, we're going to talk about a systems approach that we take, because one of the goals here is to educate people as part of the VA Shiva initiative to all of you why we must take a systems approach to looking at problems, be it understanding how an ingredient affects a particular indication, how electronic voting systems work, how your computer system works, but it's a very broad system science. We're going to talk about how our movement for truth, freedom, and health uses this same systems approach. Then we're going to go into MSM, what it is, a little bit of background. Then we're going to talk about how we did this analysis with Cytosolve. We're going to talk about what is joint health. And then we're going to look at the effects of MSM on joint health. And then we're going to look at the principle of synergy. So part of today's goal is I want you to learn about the principle of synergy so you start understanding how it's not any one thing that affects joint health or any one thing that makes the world better, but it's a combination of things. And then we're going to end with talking about, from the research. Again, this is not a medical show. This is something that is a show that's sharing with you what's out there in the literature congealed together by Cytosolve. All right. So first of all, a little bit of background. If you go to the website, VAShiva.com, you'll find out there's a number of things that I've personally been involved with, but always taking a systems approach, from inventing the first email system back in 1978. And one of the important things to understand is email is actually a system. It's not the simple exchange of text messages. The other thing is, we'll come back to Cytosolve, but Cytosolve is a technology that I created for my PhD work. And Cytosolve really allows us to take a systems approach to understanding how at the molecular level, chemical interactions work. Right now, when you eat something, it's hard to know what that's actually going on. So a lot of these nutritional companies will say, use this, use this, use that. And no one really knows what's going on. With Cytosolve, we actually do a very different approach to using a molecular systems approach, where we literally look at all the literature in a field and bring it together and understand the molecular science of it. So again, that was my PhD work in biological engineering. I spent about 5 years really building this technology. So if you look at MSM, it's an emerging therapeutic molecule. There's around 693 research articles. So it's still a very cool molecule. It's not like there's 10,000 articles, but there's around 693 research articles. 31 clinical trials have been done on it. And that's over 36 years of medical research, okay? So that's the background on MSM. Now, if you look at all of these articles, imagine that I said, I need you to go read all these articles. How would you do that, okay? It would be quite a Herculean effort for you to go distill all those 693 articles, read all of them, understand which was garbage, which was good, to get down to an understanding of which were the relevant articles, which had to do with joint health, and then which you could get any molecular systems information out of it. So what we do is we have a very powerful way of doing that with Cytosolve. So what we can do is we literally, with Cytosolve, this is one of the powers of it, we can take all those articles, right? All the 693, then we can curate them and find out the high quality research articles. Then the next step we can do is, make sure I'm sharing this. Oops. Sometimes I will forget to do that. Sorry about that. So out of those articles, then we can proceed to understanding from those articles which are the relevant ones and extract from them the molecular mechanisms. So you're going to see some the molecular mechanisms we've extracted, and then we're going to take them all, and with that we build what's called an architecture of that molecular system. In this case, it's joint health, and I'm going to share with you that, and then we can figure out how, let's say, MSM affects that particular system of reactions, which is all coming from all the science. So we're not cherry picking. Now, this is very different than, unfortunately, how science is moving, where people are not taking all of the research. Sometimes they just take a little piece of the research. So they don't look at the entire picture. It's called cherry picking. And the problem with when you take that kind of unscientific approach is that you may want to, it may be politically driven. So someone will say, oh, forget all of that research, just look at this research. So for example, with climate change, you're looking at a very complex system, the climate, and people are saying CO2 is a pollutant. It's not that simple. So that's what happens when you take a reductionist approach. Reductionism is the opposite of a systems approach. When you take a reductionist approach, what you end up with is you do not end up with a systems approach. What you end up with is you end up with the concept of, very similar to the blind men looking at the elephant, okay? So here you have the blind men looking at the elephant. It's the old story. The elephant is the whole picture. But each of these blind men, if they're touching parts of the elephant, you're going to get something that looks like this, okay? The guy who touches a a trunk thinks it's a snake. The guy touches the ear, thinks it's a fan. The guy touches a tusk, thinks it's a spear. And the guy touches the side of it, thinks it's a wall, and so on. This is what's unfortunately going on in science. This is called a non-systems approach. It is called a reductionist approach. But we want to take a systems approach. So what does that systems approach look like? And how did I get into this? So I've been deeply, deeply interested in systems. And what I can tell you is when you understand the science of systems, you can understand the science of everything. It's a pretty bold statement, but it's true. Everything in the universe is a system. Your body is a system. Everything inside you is a system. Everything outside of you is a system. And so if you can understand systems, the science of systems, you can understand pretty much everything. You have a overarching science to start looking at everything. You can get an understanding of your body as a system. And I've created some tools for that, which we offer people. You can understand your computer as a system. You can understand political systems. You can start understanding what's actually going on. What happened over the last 4 years? Who was Bernie Sanders? Who was Donald Trump? How do they fit in? Because these are scientific principles. Without scientific principles, you're going to be befuddling around. You're going to be confused what happened. You're going to support this party or that party. Same thing. People pop this pill or that pill because they don't have a scientific systems understanding. And the intention here is to give you a systems understanding. Okay, and my journey to that systems understanding began in a very profound way because after I finished my PhD, I understood this way of looking at the world. This is essentially the way that biologists look at the world. You have genes and proteins and RNA. So you understand the body as having genes and chemical reactions that lead up to the large organization, all right? However, there's another way of looking at the world. Another way of looking at the world is this way, which is the Eastern systems of medicine, which I grew up around, where you have the whole different words. I'm not going to go through it, but this is called the system of Indian medicine, which is known as Siddha or Ayurveda. So you have very different words. In fact, it's an inverted pyramid. So my grandmother, for example, used to practice this system of medicine using terms like Vata, Pitta, Kapha, koshas, and chakras, which to the Western person may seem like snake oil. But after I finished my PhD in 2007, I wanted to figure out, well, this system is being used in this system. So, you see this system help people. You see this system I saw empirically help people. So I wanted to figure out, was there an interconnection? So when I finished up my PhD in 2007, I was awarded, and this appeared on the front page of MIT, the opportunity to head back to India to do some hardcore scientific research on the integration of Eastern and Western medicine. And that journey to me was quite a profound journey because I wanted to find out how my grandmother as a healer in that village was able to apply that system of medicine. And also when you look at the amazing discoveries Western medicine makes, both have uses. I think Western medicine is great if you get involved in a crisis, God forbid something happens. It doesn't really know anything about prevention. And I was also interested to understand how my grandmother's practice of medicine, which really healed people and gave a preventative approach, how that works. So what I discovered when I got back, I spent about 2 years, is that I discovered something quite fascinating, is that these systems of medicine were all founded in a particular methodology. In fact, both East and West actually have the same approach. It's just they use different languages. So when I got back, I offered a course at MIT called Systems Health, Integrating Eastern and Western Medicine. It was one of the most popular courses. And then I put that into a site. So not only could MIT people share it, but everyone in the world. I created an educational platform and everyone should go there, called Systems Health. And on that platform, I have various certifications, the master certification, but it's a way for Eastern people or Western people or people into yoga or medicine can unify this and understand a unifying language. So there's a master certification. There's many certification programs, by the way. We have the master certification, the foundations of systems, which I'll come to, systems medicine. And so you get a range of courses from understanding how yoga works from an engineering standpoint, how herbs work, how the body is actually a system. There's a whole bunch of books people get as a part of it. And then they get access to a portal where they can train others. You can actually use this as an entrepreneurial way if you want to make money out of it. It's called the Master Certification Program. You also get 4 certifications out of it. And then out of that, I peeled away more recently a Foundations of Systems course that could be taught much quicker in about 3 hours that I could train everyone. And that's about a course that I teach physically. You can also go take it online. But one of the things that I want to impress on everyone is the foundations of that course will teach people the integration between transport, conversion, and storage. Transport, conversion, and storage. These are the three forces of the universe. So when I say that I wanted to share with everyone the science of everything, that's what I mean. There are three forces in the universe that drive everything. So when we look at MSM on how it works on the cell, transport is what occurs at the cell membrane. Conversion is what occurs in the cytoplasm. And storage is frankly what DNA is. So transport, conversion, storage occur everywhere. You transport input and output into your computer. The conversion is a CPU. The storage is guess what? It is your memory. You have it in your body. You transport food through your system. Your digestion is a conversion element. Storage is the element or the structural element which holds you up, which your memory, your fat cells, so on. So you could apply this system to anything. And that discovery is a profound discovery because it allows people to understand everything in the world as a system. Transport, conversion, storage. Many of you know when I ran for the United States Senate, the goal was to today what politicians do is they manipulate you with a slogan, lock her up, right? Or, a revolution for all, right? Like Bernie Sanders, whatever he talks about. But ultimately, their slogans have nothing behind them. They're not connected to reality. They're just slogans at the time of the day. But imagine we had a set of principles that are eternal. Transport, conversion, and storage are eternal. They're how the universe runs. And what I discovered was when you apply that to politics, this emerges. It is a principle of truth, freedom, and health. Okay? Freedom is the ability for things to move, information, matter, and energy. Truth is the ability to convert some idea that you have or a guess or a hypothesis using the scientific method. Health is the infrastructure of your body. With infrastructure, we fight for freedom. With freedom, we can explore truth. And truth, we can get more freedom and greater health. So that I wanted to share that with you because everything that I want to encourage all of you to do is to take a systems approach. You're not going to get anything from the Democrats or Republicans. You're not going to get anything from left or right anymore. And if that isn't clear over the last 4 years, it should be clear now. We have to build a bottoms-up movement that is founded in something that's real, that goes beyond us, that goes to natural principles. And that is a principle of truth, freedom, and health, transport, conversion, and storage. All right. So for those of you who are interested in learning more about this and wanting to be part of the movement that we're creating, go to vashiva.com/join. And that's the truth, freedom, and health movement. And when you go there, which I'll go there shortly, I've put together a video, vashiva.com/join. And I always like to play it right before I jump back into MSM, because it'll give you the core of what, the movement that we're building is about. So let me just go over to it and share this with everyone. For those of you who've heard it again, please share it with your friends. I'm sure they would love for you to share them this, because it's time that we really educate people on what's actually going on and how they get to what they need. So let me just go right here and I'm going to play this for everyone. So here we go.
We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite working people. There's only one movement that can do that, and that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution, and that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training, because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, right? Talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work united. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers. Completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people, Dave, to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You've got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is a not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is a not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow, some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done. And it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum. People can go to BASHIVA.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people 2 years of MIT control systems. I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it. Anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. And the Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on V as in Victor, A, Shiva, VASHIVA.com, so people can sign in. They can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there. But we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to VASHIVA, Victory America Shiva, VASHIVA.com.
All right. So I hope that gives at least the urgency. We're not going to get anywhere unless we build a bottoms-up movement. And in order to build that bottoms-up movement, there has to be scientific principles. And in order to understand those scientific principles, you can bump into them maybe over 20 years of just sort of going to the darkness, or you can learn them. Fortunately, I've put that education together. It may not be for everyone, but we are building a community here. And our goal is to have around 50,000 Truth, Freedom, and Health warriors trained. Please take advantage of it, because ultimately it's a bottoms-up movement that's only going to win for us. Everything else is sort of fooling around. It's being a dilettante. As a part of that, let me go back to our slide. Let me go back here. All right, here we are. Sometimes you have a lot of windows here. Let me just go right back to this. There we go. Okay. So as I was stating here, there we go. Okay. So by the way, those of you who want to go here, there are 3 things we're focused on doing. Again, this is a systems approach. It's not just any one thing. It's not just about, we want people to get educated. We want people to build community. We want people to get activated. So when you log in as a Truth, Freedom, and Health warrior, you're afforded a lot of different tools. One thing is we want you to get educated or be enslaved, which is you get access to the Foundations of Systems course and portal, where you get access to the entire course. You're going to learn essentially a 2-year MIT education control systems theory in a very short period of time. Then you get access to a very powerful tool called Your Body, Your System, which helps you apply those principles in a very practical way to your body. So you understand, you can answer a set of questions in this triangle of transport, conversion, storage. It'll put a red dot, help you figure out what kind of body that you have, the forces of transport, conversion, storage. Then you can figure out how your body is off course by answering a different set of questions. Then you can figure out how the inputs of food, supplements, exercise can bring you back to you. Then we have a whole set of ebooks. You get the Classic System and Revolution. You get a whole set of books to understand how you can apply systems principles to your own life, your company, your relationships, etc. And then I give you access to a whole bunch of research papers. For example, turmeric and ginger. Today we're going to discuss MSM, but that's only the educational piece. Without, the slogan, one of the slogans at when you go to MIT, it's called Mets et Manus. If you look at the MIT logo, it's got a picture of a blacksmith and it's got a picture of a scholar. Just because you learn stuff doesn't mean you know anything. Learning, that's only one half of it. You have to learn principles and theory, then you have to go practice, right? So the scholar is a learner, which we want you to make you scholars of how do you change. But then the actual activities are where you go do something on the ground. And that involves 2 pieces. One is you have to reach out and build community with others. So we give you tools to do that. There's a forum, which is independent, Facebook or Twitter, where you can come in and you can interact with others. There's all different interactions going on right now. It's growing and explosively. Then there's an equivalent of Facebook. We call it VA Shiva Social. You can come in like Marie's done, build her page. You can join different groups and you can get onto way to interact. And then finally, you can get activated. We give you flyers and tools so you can educate people on things like the immune system, so you can move people beyond this dialectic of one side or the other on an issue. For example, on this issue, right, beyond vax, anti-vax, right? You can move people into understanding the importance of immunity. And these cards you can print and share with your neighbors. And my goal is, I used to offer this course at MIT for a lot and all over the world, but anyone who contributes gets access to all of these tools. And if you don't want to be a Truth, Freedom, and Health warrior, you can just be a basic student, or you can just sign up as a member at no cost. It's up to you, whatever you're committed to your own education. So when we look at MSM, so now getting back to MSM, that's a background of the fact that in science, if we don't take a systems approach, it's very, very easy to be misled. So when someone said you have 230 visitors on your live stream. Some girl put up makeup on, has 27,000. That's okay. So what we want to talk about here is what is MSM, all right? Well, MSM is, first of all, a naturally occurring compound. So one of the things I want people to remember is there's 2 kinds of compounds in the universe, okay? One compound is a compound that you cannot find in the universe. It's called a synthetic compound. That's what a pharmaceutical company spends billions of dollars making. They spend billions of dollars testing synthetic compounds in the test tube. If they see it works on some action, then they raise money and then they go kill a bunch of animals. It's called animal testing. That takes around 6 years. And then they go into a whole process of clinical trials. But when you look at this process here, let's see what happened here. Okay. When we look at what we're talking about here, there. Okay, when we look at the process here and we look at MSM, it is a naturally occurring compound that occurs in nature. In fact, it occurs in rainwater. So before irrigation, we had, rainwater is one of the best ways, if you get food grown in the wild, it's argued that has a lot more nutrition because it's getting more MSM, but it's a naturally occurring compound. And you notice it looks like this. It's a pretty cool structure. It has sulfur in the middle. So you have sulfur right in the middle, and then you have 2 methyl molecules here, methyl here, and then you have sulfonyl. It's called methyl sulfonyl methane, okay? So MSM, that's why it's called MSM. And it's clinically shown to have symptomatic relief for musculoskeletal discomfort. So muscles as well as skeletal, includes both muscle and bones. And it exerts a medicinal effect through its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. So what our research has shown, it has an antioxidant effect, anti-inflammatory. And there's no known adverse effect, and it's generally recognized as safe. You can take it in pretty high dosages. Again, we're not cherry picking this. This is coming from distillation of the scientific work. So where do you find it? Pretty good areas. I just want you to look at this list. You find it in raw milk. You find it in tomatoes. You find it in alfalfa sprouts. You find it in leafy green vegetables. You find it in apples, raspberries, whole grains. Interesting enough, it comes out in raw milk, okay? So what are its biological effects? Well, its biological effects are really 4 biological effects. First of all, it's anti-inflammatory, which means it reduces inflammation. It's an antioxidant. It scavenges free radicals. Let me bring this up. And the other thing it does that's also quite profound about it is that it also serves to perform immunomodulation, which makes sure that your immune system doesn't go wacko. It modulates it like giving it shock absorbers. And it performs methylation. Methylation is extremely important for many, many genetic processes because it donates sulfur. You see sulfur molecules right in the middle. So it's a thing that's a source of sulfur, okay? Anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, it scavenges free radicals, it modulates the immune system, and it donates sulfur, all right? So these are the different attributes everyone can see of the MSM molecule. That's the biological effects. Now it has other effects beyond just biological effects, and I want to look at those from the health benefit standpoint, okay? The health benefits is it preserves cartilage. It improves physical function, range of motion. It lowers muscle soreness. It improves seasonal allergies, which is really the immunomodulation effect. It improves in skin quality and texture, and it also has anti-cancer capabilities. So these are, again, from the latest research, these are the 6 benefits that people have discovered. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to talk to you a little bit about Cytosolve, because those are the attributes of MSM. Now we want to use Cytosolve to look at that molecule with the sulfur and the metal, the CH3, the CH3 and the O, to see how it interacts at the molecular level in your body. Before the advent of Cytosolve, it was very difficult to see this. People just sort of guess. They do a test tube experiment. They go kill a bunch of animals. But with Cytosolve, we can look at all of that research, all of those articles, distill the molecular mechanisms, and we can understand that. That's why in many ways Cytosolve is a scientific source of truth. The important thing is, as the science changes, we don't just stop. We can also update the science, right? So we're not just stuck at one point in the world. Someone just said, let me just share some research here. Someone, I got to put this up. Okay. Someone just made an interesting comment. They say rainwater needs to be evaluated for metals, except that it picks up before the surface level. That's true. I use MSM when taken for inflammation. Yes, so it's an anti-inflammatory, good old music. All right, so let's just jump back to, so I want to share with you, some of you asked, how does Cytosolve work? So let me sort of share with you that. So if you go to cytosolve.com, you'll understand this. It took me, this was the base of my PhD work, which ended in 2007. And I've spent about now 14 years developing this technology. It's one of the inventions and one of the companies we run. But Cytosolve, if you look at before Cytosolve, this is, and still most pharma companies do this because they're afraid in many ways to use Cytosolve. But here is a compound, a synthetic compound. They'll do test tube testing, then they'll kill a bunch of animals. This takes around 6 years. Then they'll spend another 9 years testing it on humans. This takes about $5 billion, 13 years. And the product that comes out of it can actually not really solve the problem. It can have a lot of side effects. This is why you see more and more, as pharmaceutical companies spend more and more R&D, you would think they're going to find more products. In fact, the purple line shows less and less products are being approved by the FDA. Even the FDA is finding many of the synthetic drugs or synthetic molecules that pharma produces do not work, and they cause side effects. So this thing, coupled with the fact that when the Human Genome Project ended in 2003, we found out that we only have around 20,000 genes. We thought we had 100,000 genes. We have the same number of genes as a worm. So what that did was it put biology in 2003 into this new world of systems biology. And that's when I came back to MIT. And the goal was, from a systems approach, instead of just focusing on the genes and the nucleus, could you look at all the molecular reactions in the cell? Could we mathematically model it? So if one molecular reaction looks like this, if this becomes a mathematical model, imagine being able to model the human cell on the computer. And that was Cytosolve. So just like email was the electronic systems version of the interoffice mail system, Cytosolve is a way that we can use a computer to mimic the molecular system. All right. So we've built Cytosolve into a powerful platform to enable truth, freedom, and health, where we can take research all over the world, dissect it, integrate it, explore it, and model it. And there's a paper, many papers I've written about it. We can do a whole talk on Cytosolve, but fundamentally, Cytosolve lets us take a compound like MSM, use the computer on the computer in silico long before we go waste our time killing animals to understand what's going on. And by the way, this is how we build airplanes, right? We don't just throw a pilot and kill them in the test flight. We don't just go into the wind tunnel. We model everything on the computer to find out all the stuff that doesn't work, so we don't waste our time. So what we did here was, using Cytosolve, we several years ago, we got funding from the Arthritis Foundation as well as the University Health Network of Canada. And what we did was we looked at 22,000 papers that have been written about joint health, 22,000 papers. And out of those, we found 5,700 papers had to do with research that was done on humans. Then out of those 5,700, we mapped every molecular pathway. It was about a 2 to 3 year effort we did with UHN. It was a great project. They funded us because we had Cytosolve. And that work that we did the work of probably like 200 graduate students. It would have taken them so many postdocs. It was only one postdoc. Several of the leading researchers in the world, they also, with me, oversaw this research. But we have now created a molecular systems map of osteoarthritis. And in fact, instead of just keeping it for us, we decided to share this knowledge with the world. So we open sourced it. So one of the things that I'm very much into is open science. So any one of you who wants to go and check it out, you can do it. So let me stop here. So I'm going to go to the website, and I'm going to share it right here. It's right here. And I'm going to jump you right into this. So here is the actual, if you go to cytosolve.com/human-knee/osteoarthritis, you can find this. And then I can go right into the tool. So this is the first molecular systems map of every molecular pathway involved in joint health or osteoarthritis. So first of all, you see that, you can get pain, but there are nearly 7 different types of tissues involved in your knee or your joints: synovial tissue, subchondral bone, meniscus, fat pad, osteophytes, immune cells, and cartilage. And you can literally go explore. So you can look at synovial tissue, and you can see there's different kinds of cells, 4 different kinds of cells. If you go to cartilage, which most of us are concerned with, cartilage is made of one cell type, and that's called chondrocytes, okay? And the chondrocytes, if you click here, have different particles that can land on the cell surface. Those are called ligands, and they're different kinds of ligands: growth factors, cytokines, all right, other molecules, co-cultural molecules. But cytokines are what we're going to focus on. You may have heard of that, the cytokine storm. So here you can see there are different molecules that are involved with cytokine that affect the chondrocytes. One of them being IL-1 beta. So I'm going to just give you an example. And look what we've done here. This was a lot of work that the Cytosolve team did. We've mapped out every molecular pathway involved in osteoarthritis. And this is just looking at just one molecule, how it interacts with all of these other molecules. The green molecules are the ones that your body upregulates, which means creates more of. And IL-1 beta, for example, creates this molecule I'll show you called MMP13. Now, MMP13 causes cartilage degeneration. You don't want this around. Catabolic effect. And if you click here, we have then mapped out every molecular interaction between IL-1 beta and MLPP13. And you look at all the different things that affect either enhance its effect. So this molecule right here with the black line with the arrow enhances its effect. If it's a red line, it means it stops this, which means it's a good thing. So for example, here's ginseng. Ginseng, it turns out from the research, actually stops inflammation, okay? Stops cartilage degeneration. So you can see it right here. All right, so like this is a very, very powerful tool that you can explore what works and what doesn't. And I could keep going at this. So, but you have this capability. Actually, let me share the whole screen here because I don't think you guys are able to see this fully. You go back here because I don't think you can see the article here. Those of you at home, let me just share the whole screen because you're not able to see that. Okay. So what I just shared here, let me go back here, was when you look at the molecular system here, if I click on this link right here, you can see ginseng lowers cartilage degeneration because it blocks this pathway. So does, for example, resveratrol blocks this pathway. Okay. So you can see that, resveratrol inhibits the IL-1 induced expression of MMPP13. So you can start understanding with this very powerful capability. It's just one of the projects that we've done, how Cytosolve can help discover these things. All right. So I encourage everyone to go. It's free. We've open sourced it. All right. We're not hiding it. We want to do open science. And in many ways, pharmaceutical companies, if anything, probably do not like us sharing all this knowledge with all of you. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. So this is a very powerful tool that we're looking at all the, and then by the way, we're doing this for every field. We've done this for brain health. We've done this for Alzheimer's. So a lot of people ask me, Dr. Shiva, why are you involved in politics? You should be able to help everyone, but I cannot separate health from truth and freedom, right? So I fight for freedom. I do my research in the health area, and I'm a big proponent of using science to discover truth. But that's why I want to teach all of you guys how you take an approach where you can integrate truth, freedom, and health. That's why, we created the platform at VAShiva.com for you guys to become truth, freedom, and health warriors. You get real science, and because your educational system is not offering. So anyway, using Cytosolve, what we've done here is we can now take a systems approach to starting to understand what's going on at the molecular systems level with MSM. So let's stop here and let's go over to that. Okay, so here we go. So let me go over here. And when you look here, everyone can see this. I just shared this with you. Okay, so let's go here. So when you look at joint health, when it comes to, there are 4 major mechanisms that are involved in joint health. So this is really, I want everyone to listen up carefully because you're going to learn a lot right here. Because you're going to learn that when you go shopping for these supplements, that it's not just any one thing. Remember, you want to look for synergy. It's not just truth we need. It's not just freedom we need. It's not just health. We need truth, freedom, and health. Similarly, in order to get joint health, it's not just one thing. We want a combination effect. So when we look at joint health, we take this systems approach. The way we're going to assess if MSM works is we're going to look at what does it do for inflammation? Because in order to have good joint health, you don't want inflammation to go out of control. You want to keep oxidative stress in control. You don't want cartilage degeneration. You want to see if you can regenerate cartilage. I just want to make sure everyone's following that. It's not just any one thing. Everyone clear on that? You guys understand that on Instagram? Okay. I think everyone's clear on that. It's not just any one thing. We want a bunch of things. Okay. We don't want just any one thing. We want a bunch of things. Okay. So there we go. All right. So let me just make sure people on Instagram are following there. All right. So in order to do that, we want to look at a variety of capabilities, okay? We want to look at a variety of things that are involved, variety of molecular pathways, not just any one thing, because that's when you do cherry picking. Well, these are the 4 major molecular mechanisms that are important for joint health. So let's look at each one. So inflammation consists of a whole set of molecular mechanisms. I'm not going to go into the detail of this. If you go to the website, that we just are giving away for free to everyone in the world, for scientists, anyone, you can understand all the molecular pathways that are involved in inflammation. So we want to make sure we're controlling inflammation. Next thing, we want to make sure we're controlling oxidative stress, okay? Which is ensuring that you don't produce, you have the antioxidant effect. You don't have reactive oxygen species. It's like your body starts rusting. Then you want to make sure that you don't also have cartilage degeneration. You want to make sure that your body is preserving its cartilage, right? As you age, you have to be careful about this, or if you do athletic activities. And then you want to make sure, can you regenerate cartilage? Wouldn't that be amazing? You know, in your joints, can you regrow cartilage? So these are the 4 things that we want to do. Each one of these things, so we want to, the red means we want to lower inflammation, we want to lower oxidative stress, we want to lower cartilage degeneration, and we want to increase cartilage regeneration, okay? That's what we want to do. Well, how do we do that? Well, you have to understand there are markers, biomarkers that do this. Let me just explain a little bit. What is a biomarker? So, you know, if you go to the doctor, they measure your blood pressure, right? That's a biomarker of hypertension, right? They may measure your insulin levels, right? That's a biomarker of, you know, or H1AC, right? It's a biomarker of whether you have a proclivity for diabetes or not. Well, similar to for each one of these molecular pathways, there are different biomarkers. And what we want to do is when we're really doing a scientific analysis, and you're in the health food store and you're trying to figure out, oh, should I buy this or not? We want to understand what the biomarkers are, because remember, from a systems perspective, you get an input, you get an output. In this case, we're saying there are 4 biomarkers. 3 of them, 1 reduces inflammation, 1 reduces oxidative stress, 1 reduces cartilage degeneration, and you want a biomarker that increases cartilage regeneration. You want to be able to measure this. So with Cytosolve, we've identified those 4, and then we can run the molecular reactions on the computer without killing animals, and then we can see, hey, what happens when I add MSM? Does it affect it in any way or does it not? Okay, that's what we can do. So back to the drawing board here. So here, what we're seeing is that the biomarker of inflammation is PGE2, prostaglandin 2. The biomarker of oxidative stress is reactive oxygen species, ROS. The biomarker of cartilage degeneration is metalloprotease, which is MMPP13. And collagen 2 is a biomarker you want to increase that of cartilage regeneration. Now, having done that, let's see what MSM does, okay? Now we're going to get into the molecular mechanisms, okay? Now we're going to take the systems approach. By the way, the systems approach I'm talking about here is the same systems approach that I want you to learn from understanding how political systems work, any system works. So we're taking a systems approach now to understanding how this ingredient affects at the molecular systems level. So let's go down to that. So what happens here? So when you take MSM, just looking at the health benefits, MSM affects 2 of the joint mechanisms of action, okay? So MSM affects this and this. MSM has no effect we found on this. So what that means is if someone's trying to sell you snake oil, if someone's trying to put out there, and again, Cytosolve is a scientific source of truth. If someone's going to try to say MSM grows back cartilage, MSM is going to stop cartilage degeneration, from our research, we're finding that's not true, okay? Our research is showing that's not true. Now, some of the supplement guys aren't going to like me saying this, right? But they've been lying to you, okay? What we have found, what we have discovered with Cytosolve, when we look at it, is the following, okay? That these 2 pathways, MSM affects oxidative stress, which means it reduces the rusting of your body, and it increases and it reduces inflammation. We're going to talk about it, okay? So MSM lowers inflammation and it lowers oxidative stress, but that's pretty powerful. And that helps eliminate joint disease, okay? So point is MSM is good, but don't think it's affecting all the 4 pathways here. It's affecting 2 of them. So how does it do that? Well, for oxidative stress, what MSM does, interesting enough, there are these 2 molecules, as we saw, IL-1 beta, there's also TNF alpha. If you have a lot of these, you're going to get oxidative stress, okay? So what MSM does, it blocks this molecule called NF kappa beta, which is a molecule, when you have a lot of this, it's going to give rise to NF kappa beta and IL-1 beta. So MSM comes and blocks NF kappa beta. So it's like a linebacker. It blocks this, so these don't produce these 2 things. But MSM also initiates NRF2, which is a good molecule. And NRF2 gives rise to HO1, and HO1 stops oxidative stress. So it's giving a 1-2 punch. It's stopping NF-kappa beta and IL-1 beta, okay, which induce oxidative stress. So that's being stopped right here. And it's upregulating NRF2 and HO1, which stop oxidative stress. So MS1, in summary, activates the transcription factor NRF2 on the right. NRF2 promotes gene expression of heme oxygenase 1, which is HO1, and HO1 is a potent inhibitor of oxidative stress, right? Think about oxidative stress as causing rust. So HO1 inhibits this. MSM1 on the left side here prevents expression of pro-inflammatory cytokines, IL-1 beta and TNF alpha, which exacerbates oxidative stress. By inhibiting oxidative stress, MSM helps ameliorate joint disease. So number one thing is what MSM doing in a two-punch model, it is helping lower oxidative stress by upregulating NRF2 and reducing NF-kappa beta, okay? I know you're learning a lot of science here, but that's what we want to do. By the way, those of you joining new, you notice there's a little thing here. If you go to BeAShiva.com/join, we have a complete platform that runs in my data center where we're educating people. Then we're also building a community. So as you learn this, there's discussion forums. You can start on Joint Health if you want, what products work, what don't. And then we have a way that you can take action on the ground. So I just want to say that for those people who are just joining us. So that's NF. So that's one way. Okay, that's only one way. We're not done here. All right. So let's go back. Let's go back and look at the other way. So MSM works by reducing oxidative stress. The other thing is MSM, our research shows, also reduces inflammation. Okay. So now remember, oxidative stress promotes the transcription factor NF-kappa beta. Now this transcription factor NF-kappa beta promotes the expression of TNF alpha and IL-1 beta. So these two also are involved in inflammation. So what MSM does, as it did here, it blocks NF-kappa beta, which then can no longer give rise to these two molecules, TNF alpha. By the way, those of you who are new to a lot of this, you're going to learn a lot. You can share with your friends as a party, TNF alpha and IL-1 beta increase inflammation. NF-kappa beta reduce it. MSM does that. But the other thing that happens is NF-kappa beta also increases COX-2, which gives rise to PGE2, which also creates inflammation. And by the way, if you ever take Advil, if you ever had to take that, go look at the back of the Advil bottle. You know what it'll say? The back of the Advil bottle will say that Advil is a COX-2 inhibitor. COX-2 inhibitor. What is COX-2? COX-2 is an enzyme which gives rise to something called PGE2, prostaglandin 2. And that prostaglandin 2 is what causes inflammation. So when you take Advil, it just goes and hits that COX-2. But the problem is it goes and hits COX-2 everywhere, right? So it's hitting it throughout your body, not just in your knee where you're having the problem, okay? So that's the bad side of Advil, according to other side effects it has, especially if you have kidney issues, etc. Right? MSM, on the other hand, doesn't have those side effects, which is one of the benefits. So going back to here, so you understand that MSM affects through NF-kappa beta to lower inflammation. So what I've done here is we have this little drawing here. And we're going to fill this in over the week, but you see MSM, we have, it affects really oxidative stress and a little bit of the MSM pathways, but it really doesn't affect cartilage degradation or cartilage degeneration. By the way, what I'm going to now share with you some very powerful research that we've actually, what you can do with Cytosolve is you can actually use our technology to actually go down and mathematically model this. So you don't have to, again, go kill animals. All right. So what we're doing here is we're literally on the x-axis, you have reactive oxygen species, which is an indicator of oxidative stress. And we're giving different doses of MSM, again, without killing animals. Now, the experimental conditions are we're giving about 125 milligrams to 250 milligrams over 2 days. So what's powerful about Cytosolve is we can literally, like a wind tunnel, okay, we can simulate, we're able to simulate what will happen with MSM if you take it into your body without killing animals, all right? This is a revolution of Cytosolve. So I'm very proud of that, and we hope to share with you more and more data like this because you're not going to get this information anywhere else. So under control conditions, the ROS levels are around 160 nanomolar. This is in your blood, so this is in control. And watch, as you give MSM, it definitely drops oxidative stress levels by nearly, close to 20, 30% here, right? It went from 160 down to 100. So ROS levels reduced from 120 nanomolar for supplementation of 120 milligrams for 2-day period. Increasing MS dose did not lower ROS further. So this is something very interesting. So you get almost a 40% reduction almost here, okay? 40% from 160. That's pretty powerful. So what our research is showing with Cytosolve is that when you take MSM, you get a very powerful reduction in reducing oxidative stress, nearly 40%. That's around, I think, about 250 milligrams. So now the issue is, guess what? If you give more than that, it doesn't have any more effect. So if you're looking for supplements, more is not better. Why spend a lot of money on taking, let me take 2,000 milligrams. Your body cannot absorb more than that, okay? It has a effect. So, 250 milligrams is what this research is showing. Again, you should consult with your practitioners, whoever you want. We're not giving medical advice. We're giving the research that we're discovering through Cytosolve, okay? So let me make sure how people are doing. All right, good. So that's the first piece of research. Again, this is literally using Cytosolve. And again, this the reason we're sharing this is one of you wanted us to go deeper and go into. So this is a particular ingredient affecting this ROS pathway. The other thing we're looking at here is PGE2, okay, which is inflammation, okay? So what we find here is under control conditions, PGE2 levels are at 48.4, and supplement did not lower the PGE2 levels. So it did not lower PGE2, which is, by the way, if you notice, there's two biomarkers of inflammation, PGE2 and LTB4. Okay, it's not just, there's two of them here. So what we found was MSM has no effects on lowering PGE2. All right, so what I want to share with you here is that the reason that I'm sharing Cytosolve here and giving you guys this public service to help you understand it so you get understanding of this is that I'm looking at one ingredient. What happens when you start combining ingredients, okay? What happens, you don't just take one ingredient, but we combine ingredients. So if you really want to get joint health improved, it's not just MSM, you have to take combinations because some of them will affect, and I'll do a talk tomorrow on this. We're going to look at, I think, hyaluronic acid, which actually supports cartilage growth. But you'll find out that MSM is good at reducing the oxidative stress, right, or inflammation, but it doesn't really do much for the other two areas. So this is why combinations are important. And one of the things we can do with Cytosolve is understand combinations. So let me share with you a little bit of that to give you an example of the power of what we can do. So this is an example of the old school guy, mixing his ingredients, okay? Well, if you ask this old school guy, why did you decide to combine ingredient A and B? He can't answer it. But with Cytosolve, for example, if you want to combine, let's say, curcumin, which is turmeric, have your curry Indian meal and drink a glass of wine, which has resveratrol. What does that do, right? Well, with Cytosolve, we can actually take curcumin, as this I've done here with MSM, model all the molecular pathways of inflammation, look at all the places curcumin interacts, mathematically model that, similar with resveratrol, and then do the combination therapy. What happens when you combine curcumin and resveratrol? And look at this. So here on the right axis, I'm looking at a cytokine, 0.15, which causes inflammation. In the first case, no curcumin, no resveratrol. You have high inflammation. Then I just give curcumin. You notice that in the second experiment. Again, this is done on the computer, so we don't have to kill animals. 5 units of curcumin. And you see the cytokine expression comes down, which is good. Went from 0.5 to 0.05. Resveratrol does the same thing, 0.15 to 0.06. But look what happens. This is a synergistic principle. It's what happens when I give little bit of curcumin and a little bit of resveratrol, not as much as 5 and 5, but less. You get a lowering of inflammation from 0.15 to 0.03. This is called the synergistic effect, okay? So let me just repeat that again. This is why food is such a powerful medicine. You're not taking just any one thing. This is why in traditional systems of medicine, by the way, in India, you don't just take a bunch of turmeric. Turmeric is mixed with a little bit of cardamom, a little bit of cloves, a little bit of, coriander and cumin. That's called curry powder. Curry powder has a lot of little things. It's really a medicine. So over thousands of years, people always started adding curry powder to all different foods because you're reducing inflammation, you're supporting antioxidant activity, etc. So in many ways, for me, it's been a big journey. Using Cytosolve, I'm able to understand why my grandmother's systems work, why traditional medicine works. But you can apply this systems approach to understanding that we're not going to get anywhere politically by just becoming healthy or just having the First Amendment and the Second Amendment or just doing science, right? It's not just truth. It's not just freedom. It's not just health. We need all three. All right. This is why a systems approach, you can use it for your body. You can use it to figure out what foods to eat. You can also use it to figure out why we have to go beyond left and right. We have to combine good health, which some people may say it's a lefty thing, right? The earthy, crunchy granola people. And it's not just, we just need the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. People say, oh, that's just a right-wing thing. And it's not just what the nerds want, truth and innovation. We need all three. We need truth, freedom, and health. Truth, freedom, and health. So, by the way, using these same principles, for the last 16 years, we've been enabling many companies to leverage Cytosolve. We've been doing a lot of research. We've been publishing. But over the last 3 years, we started creating lots and lots of mathematical models that can actually, we realized, wait a minute, we can actually apply this to discover new products that can help the world. So we recently applied the Cytosolve approach to looking at hundreds of different naturally occurring compounds that could reduce inflammation, and we discovered a very powerful combination, which I've never done manufacturing. This is our first product, but it comes out of Cytosolve. It's called MV25, and I want to share that with you so you understand that this comes out of a approach that we're looking at using a completely different way. So MV25 is this approach. Let me just share this with you. Sorry. So MV25 it's called Momentum to Move, and it's to really provide people with who have issues with inflammation, issues with discomfort, joint issues. And this is the labeling. We just created this. You can, by the way, if you go to BeAShiva.com, I'll show you where you can get it. We're pre-ordering it. It's in manufacturing right now. We think it's going to go very fast, but it's called Momentum to Move. By the way, this is mass times velocity, momentum, MV25. And it's a blend of things that, and as the back of the back of the bottle says, it says, Dr.SHIVA MV25 was formulated using the Cytosolve computational systems biology platform, a technology for precision and personalized health. For precision and invented by Dr. Shiva during his doctoral research at MIT. This formulation results from integrating thousands of peer-reviewed scientific papers across 4 decades, which means 40 years, in 68 research institutions, and computing trillions of potential combinations of biomolecular reactions to discover an optimal synergy of compounds that downregulate biomarkers of discomfort and normal swelling. Cytosolve optimized means this formula has been optimized to maximize benefits and bioavailability while minimizing toxicity based on current research curated by Cytosolve. As the science advances, so will this formulation. This is our promise. And then you can see that we have the clean certification is made in the US, and it supports truth, freedom, and health. So I had to share that with you because, and if you go to BeAShiva.com, some of you are asking where you can get this. Let me share that with you. So if you go to BeAShiva.com and I go here and I share it right here. So if you go to BeAShiva.com and you, let me go right here. So if you go here on the website, there's a section called Shop. And if you go to the Shop section, you will see there is a product here, MV25, and you can pre-order it there. All right. So this is something I'm very excited about because we've been helping a lot of other people do this, but now we decided we're going to do this for ourselves in terms of using our own technology to discover things. So that's MB25. So let's talk about dosaging of MSM. So how much should you take? So again, this is not a medical, you should ask your doctor, but we looked at the research. So what does the research show when we look at the molecular systems approach? So let's go to that. So the research is quite interesting. So let me go back to sharing the screen and going back to our PowerPoint here. So what do we see here? So what we see here is, according to Magnuson et al., and this came out about 14 years ago, a maintenance dose is about 80 milligrams, okay? For exercise-induced muscle soreness, again, this is over a period of time. You don't take all, 3,000 milligrams a day. This is for not people normal. Remember, I said the 250 milligrams was for normal, but this is for people who've put themselves under serious stress. That's around 3 grams or 3,000 milligrams. For osteoarthritis, Kim et al. Says 4 to 6 grams per day. So there's a difference, as you can understand, where you're just normal and you're healthy. That's a 250 milligrams. But when you're under stress, like massive exercise, or you're under osteoarthritis conditions, the higher dosages do help, okay? Because your body's undergoing stress. It is looking for that compound. And by the way, MSM is a naturally occurring molecule. People have said that when we drank or when we ate more food that came from rainwater before we went to irrigation, MSM was very rich in our foods. And we have less and less of it now because we do irrigation now. We don't get all of our foods from rain. Most of it's coming from irrigated environments. So that's something very important to understand. And I can take some questions if people are interested. And let me just summarize before I finish up here. Oops. I think our people here, sorry for the people on Instagram, this keeps going away. Sorry about that, people on Instagram. Okay. Yes. So let's go here on what we're showing here. By the way, those of you joining new, we're looking at the way that MSM affects joint health. And that's what we've been talking about this evening. Later tonight at 9 p.m., I'm going to have a whole talk on how we get to clean elections and our launching of our international clean elections campaign. Have all of you can participate, but we want all of you to be truth, freedom, and health warriors. Please go take advantage. Go to vashiva.com, sign up to be a truth, freedom, and health warrior. You can sign up as a member. You can sign up as a supporter. And whatever you contribute goes to doing the science we do here, doing the platform, supporting hardware to build our platform. So let me go back here. So let's talk about what the dosaging, the summary here. So from a summary standpoint, we found 2 things. MSM helps joint health by lowering oxidative stress and lowering inflammation. MSM is clinically proven to improve joint health, muscle soreness, skin health, and hair growth, okay? And it's doing that through those 2 processes. And our analysis has revealed that at low dose levels, MSM is effective in reducing oxidative stress substantially, but not inflammation, okay? So the literature says it reduces inflammation, but our research with Cytosolve says it's definitely good at reducing oxidative stress. And MSM has no clinically relevant side effects, all right? And then let me, as I finish up here, what you've just gotten, what we just did here was we took a systems approach. The systems approach is the only way to get to truth, freedom, and health. And I'll be emphatic about this because whether right now science does a lot of cherry picking. So the scientists, if you pay an academic enough, they'll just cherry pick a little piece of research and they'll say, oh, this is what we need to do for blah, whatever the issue is, for cancer, right? We need to give everyone chemotherapy drugs, or we need to do this. But when you take a systems approach, you actually can look at it as a whole, holistic way, in a systems way, and you can find out you're integrating things. So you find out it's not any one thing. When it comes to joint health, we found out there are 4 different things that affect joint health, right? Inflammation, oxidative stress, cartilage degeneration, and we want to regenerate cartilage. But MSM doesn't affect all of them. So if you have supplement snake oil salesman trying to tell you, oh, take MSM, it's going to cure everything. No, it is good, but our research shows it's good for oxidative stress and maybe for inflammation, but definitely for oxidative stress. Over the week, tomorrow, we're going to look at another molecule on joint health. And you're going to start seeing, wow, joint health, that's good for this. That's good for this. And you can see that it's really a combination approach. Okay. Let me see if we have any questions here relative to joint health. Okay. Right. So someone says here, are you anti-Trump? Because he didn't want you fighting election fraud for him. I'm not saying I'm for you or against you. I'd like to know more about, there has been a lot of repetition with your system. Is it just you who can provide this know-how? So good question. This is Mark Joseph. So Mark, look, Mark, I don't know if you know anyone who's doing it, great, all power to them. But right now, it's taken me 40 years of my life to realize we not only need to take a systems approach, but we need to create an educational model that you don't have to go to MIT for 4 years. You don't need to study control systems. So the issue here is that, yes, it is a discovery that I have. Yes, it is a system. It's no different than a technology that I've created. The platform that we have is actually a scientific and a technology platform, but it involves three things. You learn the education of systems theory. It's a science of everything. You're welcome to go and study a control systems book. But I figured out a way to teach that to you in about an hour. All right. But more importantly, it is the discovery I've made, recognizing that system science is interlinked to systems of medicine and the concept of transport, conversion, storage in the paper. Yes, so it is my system. It is a discovery that I made, and I think it'll be probably one of the most profound discoveries, probably bigger than the invention of email I did or Cytosolve. And I say that with all humility, because sometimes you have to be emphatic without being having any hubris. But I'm telling you at this point that the courseware that we created here is the only thing in the world. But it's not only the education. We want to build a bottoms-up movement. We want to create 50,000 truth, freedom, and health warriors. Relative to Trump, it's not pro or anti-Trump. You're getting lost in that anti-pro-Trump thing. And that's where they want you to be. This is about the fact that Trump, I voted for him, you probably voted for him, I gave him money, is that when you sit back and look at the situation, the end result is, and if you take the systems course, you'll understand that one of the disturbances achieving our goal, truth, freedom, and health, is a not so obvious establishment. The eagle has two wings, okay? Or two shoulders. It has the Republican and the Democrat establishment, and then it also has the wings. One wing is the people like Bernie Sanders, who talk. At the end of the day, he'll bring people back into the Democratic Party, and he'll say stuff even against the DNC. And you have to get smart about this. And on the other side, you have people like Trump, who will say stuff against the rhinos. But you know what? He's still telling people, join the Republican Party. Okay? It's not the way to do it. And what we find is, at the end of the day, these people are sloganeers. Lock her up. Lock her up did not occur, guys. There was a big talk about fighting election fraud. But the bottom line is, our team here went after the real issue of election fraud, which is the computer algorithms. They don't want to go after that because both Republicans and Democrats have been using computer algorithms to win their elections. And we're going to talk about that tonight at 9. So, yes, the Truth, Freedom, and Health movement is the only movement on the planet which has that education, which has that platform. So take advantage of it. And if you don't want to, that's fine. But if you do it now, you're going to understand why we must break with the Republicans and Democrats. It's not about forming a third party either. It's about creating a force, a weapon of 50,000 people. It's the number that I've calculated. People are enlightened to understand the nuclear physics of change. And you're not going to get it by just thinking just because you're a good person, you support one wing or the other. You actually have to get educated. So people can be an unconscious incompetent, which means unconscious about their own incompetence, or a conscious incompetent. Wow, what Dr. Shiva is saying makes sense. Let me study this. And what we've done is we've made it, anyone who supports this movement, we've created a membership model. People can join it at no cost. But if you want to study, and when you contribute, I want to give you that knowledge. Okay, that's what we're doing. So join the movement for truth, freedom, and health. It's not for me. It is a universal model that we built here for knowledge. And without this knowledge, we're all going to be screwed following the left and the right, Republican and Democrat, pro and anti. Are you pro-Trump or anti-Trump? The questions you ask really reflect your state of consciousness, your political consciousness. So that question, frankly, is not, I'll answer it, but it's not really that strong of a question, okay? Someone said he has a list of foods. Right, by the way, yeah. So just to let you know, when one of the ways you can apply the systems knowledge is a tool that I created called Your Body, Your System. So let me show that to you, and I'll wrap this up. So a lot of you are asking for that. So Your Body, Your System is a tool that I created out of the systems knowledge, and I made it dummy proof. Anyone can use it. So with this tool, you answer a set of questions. It figures out your body. This red dot will be everywhere in this triangle. Then it figures out, you can answer a different set of questions, and you figure out how your body is disturbed off course, which is right here, let's say. And then the issue is, how do you bring this black dot back to here? And it will actually calculate for you different foods. It'll print you out a shopping list, etc., to bring you back home to you. Now, for anyone wondering why I'm bringing this up, when you go into BeAShiva.com/join, anyone who joins this movement, as a member, we give you certain tools. If you contribute to your own education, some people want more, then you get the Warrior program, where you get access to all those tools that I just went, including Your Body, Your System, books, tools, capabilities. And those people say, hey, I just want the tool and I just want to learn some basics. You can also do that. So go to BeAShiva.com/join. When you go to BeAShiva.com/warrior, you get access to a lot more capabilities. And my goal is to build around 50,000 truth, freedom, and health warriors globally. And so this gives you access to the knowledge, the education, the certification, the books, etc. All right. So bottom line is this: either we're going to remain unconscious and be exploited by the establishment, which has its left and its right, its Bernie's, and unfortunately it's Trump. And it's hard for me to critique this, but whether Trump knows it or not, he's serving the establishment by still staying in that left-right Republican Democrat paradigm. And remember, Bernie will attack the DNC. Trump is now attacking the RNC, but he's not saying forget both these parties. All right? Because there's money to be made for both these guys. Unfortunately, that's what they're doing. And that's why they didn't go hard after the election fraud. This is why in Massachusetts, why is it that our movement here has the only 2 election fraud lawsuits that are still in federal court that have not been dismissed, and we've got 3 victories? Because from a systems approach, we're going after the real issue. And the real issue of election fraud is not mail-in ballots. That's what the fake Republicans are doing. And the fake Democrats talk about voter suppression. The real issue is computer algorithms. And we've shown that. It's what they do at the machine level. Okay? Yeah, so someone said Trump is a... So look, all of these guys don't get to this level unless they're able to rile people up. But you have to talk, you have to walk the walk. Okay? It's not about talking the talk. All right. Exactly. So Trump should learn the systems approach. Okay? But look, some people don't want to learn the systems approach. It's not to their benefit. That's why we're not here to convince everyone. We're here to find those people who get it, but say, wow, I'm unconscious. I'm a conscious incompetent. I know what I don't know. Those people we can grow with. The people who are unconscious, incompetent, who are arrogant, they don't understand what they don't know. Very dangerous people. So this movement is looking for 50,000 people. We want you to support this movement, contribute. And when you do that, I give you the education that has taken me a long time to figure out, put together. Yes, you can't get this education anywhere else. So join this movement, become a truth, freedom, and health warrior. Go to BeAShiva.com, and I'll end with our video. So anyone, please go sign up for yourself and your family. Let's build this movement for truth, freedom, and health. Let me share our screen here, and I'll go back to our video. By the way, if anyone wants to go and watch the video on your own leisure, go to BeAShiva.com/join, and it's really the truth, freedom, and health video. It's right here. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite working people. There's only one movement that can do that, and that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution, and that's why I put this together. My goal is to train a army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training, because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, right? Talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up, working people, people who work uniting. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers, completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people. They have to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is a not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is a not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow, some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done. And it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum. People can go to BeAShiva.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it. Anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. Now, the Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on V as in Victor, A, Shiva, BeAShiva.com, so people can sign in. They can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, and Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there. But we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to BeAShiva, Victory America Shiva, BeAShiva.com.
All right, everyone. I hope that was valuable. So you've learned about MSM. You've learned about systems. Support the movement. Do it for yourself. We need to build a bottoms-up movement. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. I'll be back at 9 today talking about how we get to clean elections. Thank you.